What? What is happening? I couldn't believe my ears. The will stated that all the inheritance was to be given to my husband Ben, and I had no right to it. So my father-in-law was thankful to me. Well, it's unfortunate for Kelly, but we have no choice but to follow the will he declared. Thus the inheritance was passed on to my husband. Once the inheritance was settled, my husband suddenly asked for a divorce. Why are you saying this all of a sudden? Your sister is pregnant. It's my child. I'm going to marry her. He decided to abandon me and live with my sister and their child. In despair, I fell into the abyss. However, doubting the content of the will, I decided to investigate thoroughly. As a result of the investigation, I discovered shocking facts. My husband then kneeled on the floor, begging for forgiveness. But I have no intention of forgiving my husband and sister. They were destined to hit rock bottom. I am Kelly, currently 32 years old. My father was the CEO of a leading company, and I work there. My sister Sarah is a year older than me and has always been popular due to her beautiful and cheerful nature. On the other hand, I have always been uncomfortable with aggressive men and intense emotions, and I had little experience in love. Concerned about me, my best friend Mia invited me out. There's a mixer happening soon. Do you want to come? I'm not really good with that kind of thing. What are you saying? We're already in our late 20s. Let's go. Reluctantly, I was dragged to the mixer where I met Ben, who was 2 years older than me. He worked as a salesperson in a real estate agency. The moment I heard he was a salesperson, I prejudged him to be annoying and overbearing. However, talking to him turned out to be easy because he was sincere and calm, which helped me overcome my discomfort with men. Surprisingly, I found it easy to talk with Ben, and before I knew it, we started dating, and after a year, we got married. Even after our marriage, I continued to work at my father's company. Here, Kelly. This is a box of oranges. Please take them home. Such a large amount. Can I really have them? It's fine. We appreciate kind young people like you. Kelly, you really are great at your job. It's not just because you're the boss's daughter. You're truly amazing. People often praised me and gave me gifts such as fruits. I think this was because my father himself was a very virtuous person. My father always treated me very well. I work hard every day, wanting to be like my father. My father is a figure I admire. Ben and I both worked, and we came home at different times. Therefore, whoever got home earlier would take care of the household chores. Today as well, after working overtime and coming home exhausted, I was greeted by the delicious smell of food on the table. Smells good. Looks delicious. Right? You're always working late. Today I made your favorite roasted chicken. I've also prepared dessert for later. Yay, thank you. My husband was an excellent cook and always prepared lavish homemade meals. No matter how tired I was, his cooking would instantly revive me. Thanks to Ben, I could focus on my work. He was truly invaluable. We were at the peak of happiness, but 2 years ago, a sad event occurred. It was the death of my mother. She was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and it all happened so suddenly. I was quite depressed by my mother's death, and my father felt the same. At work, my father acted bravely, so I didn't notice at first, but one day, when my husband and I visited my parents' house after a long time, it happened. Dad, what's this? What happened? The kitchen sink was piled with dishes, and on the desk, there were leftover containers from convenience store meals. Work has been so busy I don't have the energy to cook, and I keep thinking how delicious Mom's meals were. My father was smiling, but I could tell that his smile was forced. My mother was a homemaker and took care of everything at home. I had never seen my father cook, and it was the first time I saw him so downcast. What are you talking about? You work late every day, and it's understandable that you don't have time for household chores. Plus, Mom was perfect at taking care of the house. But store meals every day. That's worrying. It's not good for your health. It's okay. Sorry to make you worry. As my father began to clean up, his back looked very lonely. Hearing this conversation, Ben spoke up. Dad, if you like, why don't you live with us? Really, I enjoy cooking, and I can get off work by 6 p.m. every day. I also have the option to work from home. It wouldn't be a big change just to add one more person. Ben smiled confidently at my father. I can't impose myself on a newlywed couple. What are you saying? I want a drinking buddy too. Ben. Thank you so much, I'm really happy. Tears were overflowing from my father's eyes. And so, our life together with my father began. After we started living together, I found out that my father used to leave the house at 7 a.m. every day and come home around 10 p.m. Maybe it was because he was the CEO, he had quite a demanding job. For such a father, my husband Ben and I made sure to have dinner ready by the time he returned from work. It's been a while since I had a homemade meal. It's really the best. Delicious. He was in tears as he said that. It seemed my father had become more sensitive. Instead of us cooking, my father started to take care of cleaning and laundry. As my husband promised, he and my father often drank together while watching TV. Perhaps wanting to drink with my husband, my father started to finish work earlier. Before we knew it, my father had regained his smile. Looking back, that might have been the happiest time for me. However, the happiness did not last long. My father began to fall ill frequently, and when we went to the hospital, he was diagnosed with cancer. This can't be. The shock was such that, although I could hear the doctor's voice, it didn't seem to reach my mind. I staggered out of the hospital. Kelly. No matter how many times my husband called out to me, I couldn't respond. I was so shocked that I couldn't even feel the ground under my feet. Kelly. Grabbed by the shoulders by my husband, I suddenly came to my senses. Kelly, hold yourself together. If we keep being depressed, it will worry your father. Let's support him together. It's something we couldn't do when your mother was sick. Nodding to my husband's words, I cried all day that day. My father was soon hospitalized, and the company was in chaos without its CEO. To avoid worrying my father about the company, I did my best. When I couldn't visit the hospital due to work, my husband went to see my father alone. However, my father's condition worsened, and he passed away after some time. Holding me as I broke down in tears, my husband consoled me. I'm sure your father is smiling now, meeting your mother he loves so much. Many people from the company and friends attended my father's funeral, and I realized how much he was loved. A few days later, my husband, my sister Sarah, and I gathered at my parents' home to discuss my father's inheritance with a lawyer. There, my husband said, "Actually, I was holding on to a will from your father before he passed away. I didn't know my father had left a will. My father did something like that." "Let's open the will then," said the lawyer, opening it and reading the contents. The will states that all of the estate should be inherited by Ben, the husband of the younger daughter, Kelly. Additionally, the reserved portion should go to the elder sister, Sarah, and the younger daughter, Kelly, shall not inherit. What is happening? I couldn't believe my ears. Why would I not inherit anything? I couldn't believe that my father would leave such a harsh document. Isn't that strange? Contrary to my shock, my husband was not surprised at all. So, my father-in-law was thankful to me. Well, it's unfortunate for Kelly, but we have no choice but to follow the will he declared. The expression on my husband's face was indescribable, something I had never seen before. "Kelly, did you perhaps anger your father?" laughed my sister, who had often changed boyfriends and brought them home. My parents were worried and troubled by my sister's behavior. Once my sister graduated from university, she hardly visited home, and when she did, it was always to ask, "Mom, can I have some money?" Seeing such behavior, my father often scolded my sister. However, my sister never listened to him, and they were not on good terms. That's why it made sense that my father wouldn't leave the inheritance to my sister. But my sister was not the type to let that go. Since only the reserved portion was to be inherited by my sister, if it had been her usual self, she would have complained and been angry. However, this time she showed no signs of anger. Anyway, since the will states that Kelly cannot inherit, you have to renounce the inheritance. That can't be. I wanted to deny that my father would say such a thing, but since it was written in the will, I could say nothing. In the end, we proceeded according to my father's will, and the inheritance was passed on to my husband. According to the lawyer, the total amount of the inheritance was $5 million. I was surprised to hear the amount, but it was characteristic of my frugal father. There were parts of the inheritance that I couldn't accept, but I decided to believe that my father had his reasons. After the inheritance, my husband's attitude began to change drastically. "I won't be coming home today." "Ha, that's rare. Where are you going?" "It doesn't matter." My husband coldly brushed me off and left the house. After that, he stopped preparing meals and began staying out 2 to 3 nights a week. After my father passed away, I was grieving, and I couldn't keep up with my husband's sudden change in behavior. A few days later, "Please divorce me." Ben suddenly said such a thing, leaving me speechless and unable to respond. "What? Your sister is pregnant." "That's why I'm asking for a divorce." I couldn't understand at all. It was the first time I heard from Ben that my sister was pregnant, but what does her pregnancy have to do with our divorce? "I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean. The child in Sarah's womb is mine. We will raise the child together in this house from now on." His words hit me like a thunderbolt. "What? You've been having an affair? And with my own sister?" "Well, yes, it would be an affair. I'm going to live with Sarah starting today, so Kelly, please leave." "What are you saying? How can I just leave all of a sudden?" Click. Just as I was about to unleash my anger at him with great momentum, the sound of the front door opening interrupted me. With the door opening, a loud "I'm home" could be heard. "I'm home? Didn't Ben tell you? From now on, for the sake of the baby, I want to live in a spacious house. Ben inherited this house, and as his future wife, it's natural for me to live here, right? Sarah, do you even realize what you've done? You're the worst. I can't believe this. It's your fault for having him stolen from you. If you didn't want that to happen, you should have held on to him more." "What?" She showed no remorse, instead mocking and starting to laugh at me. "Stop fighting. Does this man even realize why we're fighting?" Anger was boiling up inside me. "Anyway, Kelly, just leave. If Sarah gets stressed, it's not good for the baby, and I've already filled out the divorce papers, so submit them to the courthouse. Do you realize how selfish you're being?" I shot a sharp look at Ben, who shrugged for a moment, but soon calmed down by looking at my sister. It felt disgusting. Can't help it, right? I've been taking care of your father all this time, and maybe she fell in love with me. Ugh. It's pathetic for an old flame to butt in. Just leave already. The two of them chuckled together. And then Ben demanded divorce. "Sign the papers." Leaving those words behind, he slammed the door shut, and I was thrown out of the house. Ben chose to abandon me and marry my sister. While crushed by grief, I started walking. That day, I contacted my best friend Mia and arranged to stay at her house for a few days. While staying at Mia's place, I searched for a single apartment and signed a contract for it. I told Mia everything that had happened. "I can't believe something like that happened. It's the worst." "But doesn't it seem strange? Would your dad really do that?" "You're right. It might be worth investigating." We decided to request a handwriting analysis. Fortunately, having worked at the same company as my father, there was plenty of material available to identify his handwriting. Also, relying on a contact of Mia's, I decided to hire a lawyer. As we continued to investigate, I grew suspicious of my husband's sister and the lawyer who had opened the will. 1 month later, once all the investigation results were in, I went to the house with a lawyer I knew. "Excuse us. Hey, what are you doing here? You've really done it, haven't you? I see right through you, so let me explain now. Sarah, sit down there." My ex-husband and sister nervously took their seats, and my lawyer and I also sat down. "Let me get straight to the point. We've investigated the will. As a result of our investigation, the will you prepared is invalid." "What?" Their faces turned pale. They knew what they had done. A will needs a signature and a date of creation. Did you know that? Most importantly, this will has been forged. We conducted a handwriting analysis, and it was not written by your father. The lawyer spoke calmly and reliably. "That can't be. You're lying. Stop lying." Suddenly, my ex-husband stood up and started to make a scene. "Hey, calm down." My sister desperately tried to stop him. "Anyway, this will is invalid, so you two will not inherit anything from your father. It's a lie. It must be a lie." Holding his head, my husband Ben crouched down. You really fooled me, huh? I can't believe you forged Dad's will. I've already reported this to the police. The police? Why would the police get involved? Forgery of private documents is a serious crime. Did you really forge it without knowing that? Your head is in the clouds. Stop. I was wrong. Please, forgive me. Ben pressed his forehead to the floor, prostrating himself in front of me. I let out a deep sigh. Forgive you? There's no way I could. You had an affair with my sister and forged a will to try to take the inheritance. You're despicable. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Ding dong. What now? At a time like this, Ben said as he went to the door. And there stood a police officer. The police? Why? Didn't I tell you? I've reported it to the police. No way. My husband retreated. Are you Ben? Is Sarah also here? We need to speak with you at the police station about the forgery of private documents. What the heck? Kelly, do something. Just because of a little forgery, the police. In her panic, my sister inadvertently admitted to her part in the forgery. There's nothing I can do. This is the consequence of your actions. As they argued, the police officer revealed another shocking fact. Additionally, your crimes don't stop there. You hired a friend to act as a fake lawyer, didn't you? Yes, the lawyer who read the will that time was a fake. Apparently, my ex-husband had paid his friend $1,000 to pretend to be a lawyer and promised a share of the inheritance once it was secured. Why would you? That friend has already confessed and has been arrested. That action qualifies as an unauthorized practice of law and fraud. He has testified about your involvement, so we have all the evidence. Damn it, that guy! Visibly upset and agitated, he was kicking chairs and shouting. It was the first time I saw Ben so emotionally unstable, which left me feeling complex. Raging, prostrating, having an affair with my sister, and forging my father's will. The man I believed was my destiny turned out to be a total scoundrel. I once truly loved him. I thought I might feel a bit of sympathy or loneliness watching Ben being arrested, but I felt absolutely none of that. Unbeknownst to me, my affection for Ben had completely faded over the past month. While watching Ben, my sister was breaking down in tears. She had brought it upon herself. Later, my ex-husband and sister were taken to the police station. The two were arrested for forging the will and hiring a friend to provide false testimony. I was thinking about what would happen to my sister's unborn child, but it was no longer my concern. As for me, I became the heir to the estate and inherited $5 million in cash. Through this experience, I learned about the harshness of life and also discovered my own strength. Despite being betrayed and hurt, I had the courage to pursue the truth and was able to achieve justice because of it. As a result of the trial, my ex-husband Ben and my sister Sarah both received actual prison sentences. The charges of forgery and fraud were serious, and both of them were sentenced to several years in prison. I am to become the aunt of my sister's child, but I am not yet ready to face this. Maybe one day, when the child grows up, the day will come when I can tell the truth. Inheriting such a large sum of money has transformed my life. However, through this ordeal, I've learned that there are things more important than money. The courage to pursue the truth, the strength to believe in myself, and the value of true friendship. Without Mia, I would not have been able to overcome this difficulty. I have taken over my father's position at his company. Although there was initial confusion, I now feel a sense of duty to protect and further develop what my father built. The employees have warmly welcomed me. Kelly, you'll be fine. We trust not just because you're the president's daughter, but because of your character and abilities. The employees' words make me feel responsible. Following my father's wishes, I strive daily to protect the happiness of our employees and their families. Although I face difficulties at times, I am confident that I can overcome each one with the strength I gained from this experience. As for love, I've decided to take a break from it. It seems like it will take time to heal my wounded heart, but I believe that one day, I'll have a wonderful encounter. For now, I think it's time for me to face myself and grow. Occasionally on weekends, I visit my parents' graves. Mom, Dad, I'm doing well. As your daughter, I am diligently living each day so as not to bring you shame, I tell them, and I feel at peace. In the future, I want to be someone who can help others. I plan to establish a foundation to support people who are experiencing the kind of suffering I went through. People make mistakes, but they have the power to learn from them and recover, my father often said. I hold these words close to my heart and walk forward. Life can take unexpected turns. But if you live sincerely and stick to your beliefs, I believe happiness will come. My new life has just begun. What meetings and experiences await me may be a little scary, but I'm more excited than anything. Mom, Dad, thank you. Because of your love and teachings, I am here now. As your daughter, I will continue to live proudly. And if I can pass on the lessons I've learned through this experience to someone else someday, that might become my new mission. Tomorrow is another new day. I take a deep breath and step forward into the future. This story may have come to an end, but the story of my life continues.